So here's our next problem. It says finish the congruency statement. So when we write a congruency statement, we have to match our pieces. That is very important. And so we have triangle ABC is congruent to the other triangle. Well, A is the vertex between the side that has no markings and the side that has 2 markings. So we have to go over to the other triangle and find the letter between the side that has no markings and the side that has 2 markings. And so the letter between the side that has no markings and 2 markings is R. Triangle R. Now we have to see what does B match up with. And so we travel from A along the blank side to B. So I'm going to travel from R along the blank side to W and end with I. Number 10, finish the congruency statement. One more time. Triangle DEF, D has 1 marking, A has 1 marking, E has no markings, S has no markings, F has 2, N has 2. And let's finish the congruency statement one last time. Triangle JKL is congruent to triangle, let's see, J is between blank and 2. Blank and 2 is H. K, we travel along the blank side. Traveling along the blank side, we land at A. Triangle HAT. All right. Are these triangles congruent? Well, I need to check and see if I have any reflexive sides or vertical angles, and I do see a reflexive side. Now, reading my congruencies, I can tell that these triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. Yes. By side, angle, side. Are the triangles congruent? If so, how? At first glance, it looks like I have angle, side, side. And angle, side, side is a bad word. That's not an option. But since I have a right angle, let me check and see if this is a pair of congruent hypotenuse and legs. And it does appear to be HL. Are the triangles congruent? A lot of people recognize this. They share that third side. Yes, they're congruent by side, side, side. Are these triangles congruent? Let's see. First thing I notice about this picture is that there's a reflexive side right here. So are the triangles congruent? Yes, by angle, angle, side. All right, first thing I need to mark on 16 are the vertical angles. But I marked those vertical angles, and now I have angle, side, side. Angle, side, side is not an option, so these triangles, I have not enough information. Are the triangles congruent? Well, here we have parallel symbols. Anytime I have 2 lines that are parallel, that means that we have a pair of alternate interior angles that are congruent. You might also notice that we have vertical angles that are congruent. And so if you see parallel and mark the right angles, you can see that these triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. So now we have proofs. Back to the land of proofs. Just checking to see how much we have left. All right. So number 18 what I want you to understand is what's here is always going to go first. What's here is always going to go last. And so let's get started with our proof. S is the midpoint of QU. Many of us know our first reason is always given. Now, if S is in the middle of QU, then something that we should understand is that QS is going to be the same length as SU. That QS is congruent to SU. Why? Because we know what midpoint means. So our reason is definition of midpoint. I've told you many times that once you have a congruency, it's time to go back up to the givens. So now that we have a congruency, let's go back up to the givens and use our next one. Our next one says that QR is congruent to ST. That information was given. Let's mark it. QR is congruent to ST. We have a congruency. Let's head back up to the givens. And so our next given information is that RS is congruent to TU. That information was given. Let's mark it. RS is congruent to TU. We finally have enough information to say QRS is congruent to STU, triangle STU. By what? Is this side, angle, side, 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 angle, side, angle, 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 side, or hypotenuse leg? Which one is it? Hopefully you said that's clearly side, side, side. So, hint. Maybe there's a side, side, side proof on your test. Number 19, let's keep moving. Number 19, always your first statement is going to be the first given. And your last statement, it's going to go down here. I want you to notice that this time we are proving that parts are congruent and we're not proving that triangles are congruent. So before the parts can be congruent, the triangles have to be congruent. So we'll get to this in just a second. So beginning, PS is parallel to QR. Our first reason is always given. Let's mark that. PS is parallel to QR. If PS is parallel to QR, I told y'all anytime that we have parallel, there's going to be a pair of alternate interior angles that are congruent. So I just marked this angle congruent to that angle. Let's state it. Angle PSQ is congruent to angle RQS because they're alternate interior angles. And we have a congruency. Now that we have a congruency, it's time to go back up to the givens. Our next piece of given information is that we have a pair of congruent angles. Angle QPS is congruent to angle SRQ. That information is given. Let's make sure that we mark it. Angle QPS is congruent to angle SRQ. All right. We have a congruency. Time to go back up to the givens. Oh no, we're out of givens. So now we need to look for a reflexive side or vertical angles. I see a reflexive side. SQ is congruent to SQ because it is a reflexive side. So now that we have three congruencies, let's see which shortcut tells us that triangle PSQ is congruent to triangle RQS. Let's take a look. How are the triangles congruent? Is it side, angle, side, side, angle, side, 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 angle, angle, side, or hypotenuse, leg? Let's look. Well, it appears to be angle, angle, side. And if this always goes last, now we know that PQ is congruent to SRS because of CPCTC. All right, taking a break from proofs for just a second. In these two triangles, triangle ABC and QRS, AB is 13 feet. Let's pause there. They tell us AB. We know that AB ought to match up with QR. Do they give us QR? No, but they asked for it. So QR must be 13 feet. Angle B is 71. Angle B matches up with angle R. Therefore, angle R must be 71 degrees. And on your test, you will be given two triangles. I highly suggest you label them. And so if we have triangle ABC, and AB is 13, and QRS, we know that 13 goes with 13. 71 goes with 71 over here. And angle S, 54, we go with angle C, 54 right here. So here's another proof. We're going to prove triangles are congruent this time. So our last reason is going to be something like this: side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, or hypotenuse, leg. That's what's going to be our last reason. But let's get started. Our first piece of information is that PR bisects angle QRS. Our first reason is always given. And so angle QRS is being split in half. So that means this half equals that half. Anytime I say that means, our next reason is going to be a definition. But let's talk about what we just marked, the statement. It means that this is going to be split in half, so therefore angle SRP is congruent to angle QRS. Why? By definition of angle bisector. We have a congruency. Time to go back up to the givens. So our next given information is that angle PSR is congruent to angle PQR. That information is given. Let's mark it. PSR is this angle. It's congruent to PQR. That's that angle. We have a congruency. Time to go back up to the givens, but we're out of givens. So what are we going to look for? That is, we're going to look for either a reflexive side or we're going to look for vertical angles. And it looks like in our picture, we have a reflexive side. And our reflexive side is PR. PR is congruent to PR. We have enough information to say that the two triangles are congruent. Triangle PSR is congruent to triangle PQR by angle, side. So 22 and 23, they're not going to be in this order anymore, but 22 and 23 are some of the most missed problems on the test. And so it says, given that ABC is congruent to DE, what additional information do you need to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEC? I want you to notice that they have C in common. So C is this point right here. And so we have triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEC. And we already know that AB is congruent to DE. We can already know that the vertical angles are congruent. And so we have an angle and we have a side. Let me repeat that. We have an angle and we have a side. What are we missing to use angle, side? I hope you said that we're missing an angle. And so what angle are we missing? Really, it doesn't matter. We could say that we're missing angle B is congruent to angle D. And if we were to add this angle and that angle, then we'd have enough information to say angle, side. Let's look at our next one. It's going to be very similar. Given that AC is congruent to DC, what additional information do we need to prove that the triangles are congruent by side, angle, side? Same situation. ABC and DEC share C in the middle. We're given right here that AC is congruent to DC, and we know that the vertical angles are congruent. So what do we already have? We already have a side and an angle. What are we missing to use side, angle, side? If we already have a side and an angle, then we're missing a side. But it can't be this side. We're missing this side and this side. That BC is congruent to CE. So our last thing to do is to identify special segments. Up on the board, you'll see that I have our special segments listed out with what markings they might have. And right here, our first picture, we have arcs. Our arcs tell us that we're looking at a angle bisector. Here we just have a box. Our right angle symbol tells us that this is an altitude. Here we have double tick marks. Double tick marks, this is the only one that isn't on the whiteboard, therefore that must be a mid-segment. Your notes would tell you that as well. And last but not least, we have a box and tick marks. When you have a box and tick marks, you're looking at a perpendicular bisector. Thank you for working through your review with me. I wish you the best on your test. And let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. All right? Good luck studying. Good luck on your test.